our native land, our native land, our native, our native, our native land. Hiya, hiya, our native land.
Hi everybody, I'm Tchadas Leo and welcome to another episode of Our Native Land. Before we get to today's guest, I would just like to do a territory acknowledgement. I acknowledge with respect the Lekwungen peoples on whose traditional territory Czech Studio stands upon, and to all the Indigenous tribes that are part of the Coast Salish, New Channel, and Kwakwaka'wakw on Vancouver Island. I thank these nations and traditional land keepers for allowing us to live, work, and play on their lands. Like I said, I'm Tchadas Leo, host of Our Native Land, and today on the show I have the honor of talking to Paul Natrall, of the otherwise known on the mainland as Mr.Bannock. Mr.Bannock is Vancouver's first Indigenous food truck, which rolled out onto the streets in January of 2018. Paul is from the Squamish Nation. He has been quoted to say that we take pride and joy in sharing fusion Indigenous cuisine using traditional ingredients from the Squamish Nation, such as juniper berries, smoked wild salmon, and meats, traditional methods such as clay baking and stone baking. Natrall, who was trained in traditional French cooking out of Vancouver Community College, has always wanted to be a chef. His first teachers were his mother and grandmothers. One of his uncles was a hunter and would bring home venison, moose, and elk that Natrall said the family would eat alongside everyday food. I bet you I'm making everybody hungry just listening to this, and we haven't even started talking yet. Items from Mr. Bannock's launch menu include award-winning Indian tacos, a Bannock calzone, a waffle Bannock. His own twists on traditional Indigenous foods take shape in his popular Bannock waffles, using Bannock dough, the different textures paired with whipped cream and berries, or smoked chicken with apple and cranberry coleslaw. He likes being creative with his knowledge of varieties of cuisine. In September of 2019, Mr. Bannock was announced as the BC Indigenous Business Award Young Entrepreneur of the Year. So congratulations to Paul, and welcome, Paul, to Our Native Land. How's it going, Paul?
Yeah, thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation. And yeah, just happy to be here and share some of my experiences with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul. So I just want to get to know you a bit more. You're from the Squamish Nation. Tell me a bit about growing up in Squamish. And like I mentioned before, you started learning how to cook with your mom and your grandmother. So let's kind of get a bit of background about you.
Yeah, so I am Squamish Nation, but I live on the North Shore in Vancouver. And like our household was always super busy, right? We had like tons of aunts, uncles, and cousins, right? And the house was just full of like love and laughter,
Hmm.
and obviously comes with that is like a ton of food.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think one of my favorites was always when my uncle would go hunting with my cousins and uncle from the interior. He would come home with like some moose and venison steaks, right?
Yeah.
Like when I was younger, like I just thought it was something different that we couldn't get in the grocery store, right?
Hmm.
So I wasn't a big fan of it, but as I grew up or grew older, like I was like, okay, I'll try it. It's like they put a lot of love and work into harvesting some of this exotic wild meat that we have a lot on our lands, right?
Hmm.
And like I'm not surprised now like that I'm a seasoned chef, but the stuff is so delicious, and
Hmm.
like that kind of stuff costs me an arm and a leg these days, you know.
Yeah, and that's
And
I'm curious about that too, about the challenge of having getting those ingredients, because there's a lot of regulation
mhm,
on some of, like, the traditional foods that we as Indigenous people like to eat. Either you can't sell it, the way you get it is restricted, the way you get it to people's plates is
yeah.
expensive or impossible. So how are you dealing with that? Like, what are the challenges?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging because we can showcase there's only limited things that we can showcase from our food culture, right?
Hmm.
But being indigenous and living off the land like we used to, like we were so rich with a lot of fresh local stuff that grew here naturally, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
But
So.
I sit on a board of directors for an indigenous group called Indigenous Culinary of Associated Nations,
Mm-hmm.
and we're a group of Indigenous chefs across the country. And we, like, pre-COVID, we were supposed to go to Calgary and sit down with the Canadian government and the health like agencies and talk about like Indigenous foods, like before the health and safety people like came like came to in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like we used to preserve like all of our foods like naturally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, and like we did it successfully for like since the beginning of time, you know.
Mm-hmm. So that's good. I don't think a lot of people know that, that there is people in place like yourself and people across the country that are trying to make that difference. Because I know when I was talking to Jared Cristana Williams, who is a local Indigenous chef here in Cowichan Valley, he said that's one of the hugest challenges of having an Indigenous restaurant or food truck is just the accessibility to those types of meats. So I completely
Yeah.
understand. And I used to own a restaurant too, and we tried to do a lot of Indigenous meals, and I
Yeah.
understand the challenges behind that. So let's jump back to family. And so you're saying you're growing up, food is pretty normal around the household. You're
Yeah.
constantly getting your uncles and your cousins to come by. So what are some of the first kind of beginnings of you realize that, like, oh, I really want to be a chef. This is something that I really enjoy.
Yeah. Well, just growing up on the reserve there, like it was a lot of construction jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I was seeing my uncles coming home and they're like super tired or working at a car wash and stuff. Like I actually did I was a car washer and like a dishwasher before I started uh my career into becoming a chef.
Mm-hmm.
But like it was either one of those or like get into a kitchen.
Yeah.
But when I first started, like I didn't know any cooks or any chefs
Yeah.
besides like home cooks, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, I don't want to work outside in the rain. I was a car washer. I got soaked every day
Yeah.
for for like, I think I did it for like a couple years
Wow.
anyway.
Yeah.
And I was pretty young at that time, right?
Yeah.
And it was like before I had kids and like I said, before starting a career. But like I know I didn't want that kind of lifestyle. So uh like I remember cooking in the kitchen with my grandmothers and my
Mhm.
mom, and it was simple and easy, and I got to make things taste the way I want it.
Yeah. It just came simple and natural. It just seemed like a natural transition
Yeah.
to be a chef.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So
And
go ahead.
yeah, and also like just after taking that culinary program at VCC, like even till this day, there's only one restaurant in Vancouver and only one food truck in Vancouver. So there's still a huge gap for Indigenous cuisine to be showcased.
Mhm.
And like I'm hoping with ICANN, the work that I do with them, that we reach a lot more like younger people that want to be cooks and chefs, and hopefully they can kind of learn from what we've done, right?
Mhm.
uh I was on like the Food Network recently. I was on APTN a few times,
Mhm.
and it's the same with the other board members that are on there like across the country, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I noticed that you've gotten quite a lot of attention, which is good. So it's one thing to be an Indigenous chef, but to also make good food and put out a good product, I think is also completely necessary. Based on what I read, it sounds like you're making some incredible food, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But before we get into it, I want to get a bit more of a chronological idea. So you go to school, you become a chef, so you get out of chef school, and what are your prospects? What's your idea of how you're going to pursue your career now that you've studied it?
Yeah, well, when I first started in the kitchen, like I didn't know I was going to specialize in my own food culture, right? Excuse me. Like I just wanted to be out of the rain and
Yeah,
not getting
that's a
soaked like every
high
day.
priority. I'm not working in the rain. So if you're going to a fair, you're not working in one of those flimsy tents.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And like while like starting off my own business, like I was in table and tents, just like anybody who starts
Yep.
in this kind of industry, right?
Yeah.
So I did get soaked at the beginning.
Yeah.
But like as people began to try my food and explore like my version of indigenous cuisine, people loved it,
Yeah.
and they requested that I either get a restaurant or a food truck.
Mm-hmm.
And food truck is by means like way more affordable than a brick and mortar, right?
Yeah.
So that's the route I came, and now we're here, right?
Yeah. So so obviously you grew up with your family, and now you have quite a large family yourself, a notable size. Tell me a bit about the the size of your family, and are any of them involved with you and the food truck?
Yeah, like we have like a pretty big family.
Yeah.
We have 8 kids altogether,
Yeah. That's
and
big. Yeah.
yeah, some of them live with their mom out in the Fraser Valley, and we have a couple here that live with us in West Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
But pre-COVID, before all this lockdown and stuff went, like there's a few of the kids that were really interested and enjoyed seeing what I do, right?
Yeah. That's good.
And yeah, it's hopefully that one of them continue to like it, and like if
Y-
even if it's not their career, they still learn these basic skills
to cook at
to
home and to provide some, natural, traditional foods for themselves, right?
yeah, for sure.
Well, you got a 1 in 8 chance. That's pretty good compared to most dads.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And like potentially like my great grandfather was a Red Seal chef in the army, Andrew Natrall, and
Hmm.
me myself, like I'm a second generation now, and potentially, like you said, 1 in 8, there'll be a third generation chef in the
Hmm.
family, right?
That's really cool. So let's
Yeah.
let's talk a bit more about the food you serve in the truck, because I think that's what a lot of people that are listening or watching want to know, is kind of get a better sense. What I listed in your introduction may have only been just what you started off with. I don't know if you're still doing the calzones or the waffle bannock or whatnot, but tell me a bit about your menu that you have right now, and just get us hungry.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So like just due to COVID, we have limited services right now.
Hmm.
Hopefully soon, like with all the vaccinations, and
Hmm.
like as the rollout plan expands more, like we're gonna be back on the road soon.
Hmm.
But like we've been doing our own homemade burgers with like local meat. We added some One Arrow bacon. It's another indigenous company from Vancouver.
Hmm.
We do like Bannock tacos still,
Hmm.
but we've been using dried beans that are local here.
Hmm.
Like it's just a bit more of a process, but you know exactly where it comes from.
Yeah.
Like you're buying local, supporting local,
Hmm.
and you just cook it a bit longer, right?
Yeah.
Uh, we added Spear Bear coffee. We have lattes, cappuccinos, americanos,
Hmm.
hot chocolates. We started doing our own like berry syrups,
Oh wow.
getting fresh berries from the farms out in the Fraser Valley.
Hmm.
And then we have a soda, like a soda stream. So we make our own carbonated soda sorry,
It's okay.
mixed with mixed with a syrup. And then we also got an ice cream machine, so we can do our own ice cream as well.
Oh, nice.
So everything's gonna be like made in the truck, right?
Yeah, that's already a lot of stuff. I think that's always the challenge with the truck too, is like you only have a limited amount of space, and it's how many things you can make based on how many ingredients you can get in there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And definitely like with using like dried things, you save up a lot more fridge space, right?
Hmm.
and yeah, just try to use like local stuff. We added French fries. You can do like chili cheese fries, poutines,
Hmm.
and then we have like sodas, of course. So
Hmm.
there's like a full combo available.
Absolutely. And the burgers that you were talking about at the beginning, obviously I'm assuming the burger uh, bread is Bannock.
Yep,
Yep.
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 It's like a fried bread, and
Hmm.
then like eventually as things like evolve a bit more again, like once everything lightens up, like
Hmm.
we'll have different specials as well, right?
Hmm.
We have like a stone pizza oven that's available to use in in the truck.
Yeah.
So like we're saying, just space is gold in there, right? You
Yeah.
don't have a lot.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Especially at like how many people can you fit in there like in a busy time? Like is it just you in there or do you squeeze another one or two people in there and you guys just do the, behind and in front of you and the
yeah,
restaurant jargon, right? Like how's
yeah.
it like in there?
Yeah, it's pretty tight. Like I'm a big guy and my workers are big guys too. So it's gets pretty crowded, but
Yep.
like since all COVID started, like we have like two people in there
Mhm.
just going at it, right?
Yep.
But pre-COVID, like before any of this started,
Mhm.
like we probably had like four workers in there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like really tight,
Yeah.
right? But we did events like on June 21st, we were doing National Indigenous Day at Trout Lake. And I remember the first year, I think we did like 1,700 people, like 1,700 tacos.
Wow.
And then the last year before COVID happened, we did 2,100 there at Trout Lake and then 300 at another location at BC Hydro.
Wow.
So 2,400 people we served just for lunch.
Yeah, yeah, it's just lunch and those are just tacos and add all the drinks or the sodas and the coffees and or the fries that
Yeah.
go with it. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, it was I can't believe I did that just like thinking about that, but like I like I had a solid crew, right?
Yeah,
Like I don't do all this by myself,
of
and
course.
people people who showed up and worked and like every day to put a lot of love in the food and like feed feed their souls and their minds, you know?
Hmm. Speaking about feeding the souls and the minds, it kind of ties into something I was, you've been featured in quite a few articles, is your idea of using your food to show the importance of, indigenous culture and even in a sense to help with the idea of working and feeling, how do I say it, to help along the idea of reconciliation through indigenous food. So tell me a bit about how you feel about your food and what you think it's making a difference for people.
Yeah, I think it's so important because with everything that just happened recently about all the kids in residential schools across the country, like my heart goes out to all our communities there, right?
Hmm. Of
But
course.
yeah, with all that happening, like we weren't able to practice like our food culture and have all of our ceremonies and gatherings like we normally would, right? So sadly, like some of that got lost or like you just weren't able to practice and have it and like expand on that, right? Because you
Hmm.
look at all these other cuisines, they're some of them are evolved into some of the best in the world, right?
Hmm.
But hopefully like me and some of these other big chefs that are doing what we're doing, like we can get to that level again, you know?
Hmm.
And like for me, I just want to showcase the some of the ancient cooking methods like the clay baking, the stone baking, the smoking, the curing and the canning and stuff like that, right? Pickling and just really showcasing those traditional ingredients, right? So being on the west coast here, like there's a lot of seafood, there's a lot of root veg, squash, beets, turnips, and then you go into all the berries and all that, right? Strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, and all that kind of stuff, you
Yeah.
know?
That brings me back
So
to my
there's
childhood. I just can picture myself going to pickle those and eating them before I get home. I don't even have anything left in the basket.
that's awesome, man. That that's definitely one of the memories like I was super fond of when I was younger. Just like going out to pick blackberries for my grandmothers, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Back in the day, like there was so many blackberry bushes like everywhere,
Hmm.
right? Being in the big city in Vancouver now, there's not many blackberry bushes that you can go do that. But
Hmm.
I remember getting like 3 or 4 buckets like in a day,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. And you, I
Yeah.
know you'd always find that one bush that was like you find and you have a couple. I'm like, it's so juicy. I'm like, I found
Yeah.
the perfect one, and you just empty it out. Like I don't even care if it's here next year. I'm taking it, right?
Yeah. Just finding the big juicy one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, totally, man.
Like
Yeah, and then
I
you,
remember yeah,
yeah, and then
I
yeah,
remember
that's yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
oh yeah. I just remember the like having a competition with my sisters and my cousins of every year who would find the biggest juiciest one, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And that ties into like the, Bannock again, right? Like that's one of the best things that I think we as a indigenous people have adapted to, like how do we, continue the culinary experience for us and for people is just, spreading different things on Bannock and to have those fresh berries and put it on that bread, fried bread that, your mom or your grandmother made. It was just it's like the best breakfast, lunch, or dinner you can have, right?
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Like a fresh strawberry jam or a strawberry or blackberry
Yeah.
blackberry jam, right? That
Yeah.
was so delicious,
Yeah,
man.
man. I hope I don't make you so hungry you eat the food you're gonna serve today. You got to make sure there's some left for everybody else because I might just come take it. But we got to wrap up soon. But I was kind of curious. Do you find even people today going to the truck, and that's the thing. People are still learning about our culture, our heritage, our traditions, and our cuisine, especially with the, the finding of 250 children in Kamloops. Some people are like, "Wow, I didn't even know." Right? There's always people are always learning. So, do you even find people going to the truck and being like, what is Indigenous cuisine? Or like they'll look and they'll say Bannock and they'll have no idea what Bannock is. Like, are you still teaching people on a daily basis what you're doing?
Yeah, yeah, even till today yet. Like I've done a lot of work in a lot of communities and there are still a lot of people that ask what is indigenous cuisine,
Mm-hmm.
right? Bannock is something that was brought into our culture, but we perfected it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I like to tell them that like it's more of a lifestyle than like kind of like any kind of trend, you know.
Yeah.
Like I remember my great or my grandfather, my late grandfather, Kenny Diskin. My mom was telling me stories about how in the summer he would go fishing, and then he would have this huge smokehouse in the back of my late grandmother's house where my sister lives now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he would be filleting and like smoking all these salmon,
Mm-hmm.
right? My mom told me last or pre-COVID, just not too long ago, before that she was reminded of my grandpa because he used to smoke a ton of salmon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when she went into my kitchen, she can smell the smoker.
Yeah. I think
So
that's such a testament too. Like when you say like it's not so much a trend, but it's a lifestyle. I can completely resonate with that because it's like, you can do the smokehouse and like you smoke the fish and then you bring it inside and it's like you don't have to do anything with it after. It's like I just put in the work, the effort, and the lifestyle of this is how I'm going to prepare the food, and then you could just eat it like that if you want to, and then that would just be Indigenous cuisine right there. Is that kind of what you were meaning by lifestyle?
yeah,
Yeah.
just like how we prepared the food, like showcasing that smoking, right?
Hmm.
Like if you go up north a bit to like Lillooet, they have like wind dried salmon, and that stuff's like gold, right? You can't
Hmm.
you can't just go to the store and get some of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
but like that's the some of the kind of stuff that we want to advocate, and hopefully one day like our indigenous chefs will be able to showcase that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
right? Another one is hooligans. Like if you go up north a bit more, they
Mhm.
have those, and they ferment those into like hooligan oil or
Mm.
paste, you know.
Yeah.
It's like an acquired flavor, but like you can't just get that anywhere. And
My reference to hooligan is my dad told me when they made him go to church on Sundays, there he would use it for gel. So they would just have like hooligan oil all over his head, just this greasy stuff. But that's like, I mean, if you're not gonna eat it, use it for gel. I don't know. That's what he did.
yeah, yeah, you like there's a lot of like tales to tell about hooligans, right?
Yeah,
A
because
lot of the
they're like
stuff.
a little like oily fish. That's what it is, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
some of them are inappropriate for
For
TV
converse,
and
yep,
radio.
yeah. We
Yeah.
won't get into that, but yeah, there's different things I've heard about it. We'll leave it there.
Yeah.
On that note, we're out of time. Paul, you got a food truck to run. We got to focus here.
Yeah,
Oh
for
my
sure.
God. Paul, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to talk about your background, your traditions, and really advocating for Indigenous food. It means a lot to me. I know fans of the show know I like to talk about food and Indigenous food a lot. So you're just such a great fit for coming on the show today. So just as a final department, plug in for yourself. If people are on the mainland, I'm going to the mainland next month, hopefully. You got some restricted hours and things that you're doing, but if I was on the mainland when you're open, where are you?
Yeah, so we are located on the North Shore, on Mission Reserve there.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 10 minutes from the sea bus. Like if you're coming from Vancouver, like it's just a 10-minute walk from there. We have the Mr. Bannock app where you can order straight from there, like food from the food truck, or if you want to get some stuff shipped to your house, it's available on Android and Apple. So check it out.
Nice. So
And
basically on the North Shore, like close to where you get off the sea bus, that's kind of your general area, and the actual like address is on your website or your app there.
yeah, you can find the address there. And yeah, it's pretty close. Yeah, just I'm just really looking forward to seeing everybody as stuff opens up. Like I'm a people person, and I love sharing my food, but also sharing the stories that I've come across the last like 11 years since I started cooking, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel
Yeah.
the same way too. I mean, I'm a people person myself, and I'm excited for things to get back to normal. And if things go well, I might see you next month, and I'll come and try some of your food. So, Paul, thank you so much for coming on to Our Native Land.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. And I just want to quickly say hi to all my family in Stamanius there. We got a big family out there, and you guys have an awesome day. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.